Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you guys have had an amazing couple of weeks. I know it's been a while since I last posted a video, my 1 month update in New York City, and I am now quickly approaching month 2. So a brief update. Things are still pretty good. Still learning to navigate this daggone subway. The MTA is trash. Just gonna put that out there. The MTA is awful. And so when I can, I tend to leave like 2 to 3 trains or buses earlier than my GPS tells me to, just so that I can hopefully arrive to my destination on time. Like, for instance, today I had to be at church early, and I left a bus ahead of the bus that I was supposed to take, and I got to church on time because there was a detour. And I was like, great, glad I left early, otherwise I would have been late for service. So, that's been my biggest journey every day. It has been pretty rewarding. I have a couple of announcements I'm hoping that I can share by the time I record my next video, that I also hope will not be a month away. But that I can share some really cool things that I'm working on and doors that God has opened for me since I've been here. But so far, things are pretty good. One of the things I do want to talk about is just my current mental health state since I've been in New York, and it kind of coincides with what I want to talk about in this video. So New York is great. I mean, I'm surrounded by artists and so many people who are doing so many great things. I have a job. It pays the bills. I don't love it, but it pays the bills. I have friends in the city, like lifelong friends I've known since undergrad, as well as friends that I've made in the past year, just coming back and forth to the city, as well as friends that I've made since I moved here. So it's been great to grow and learn myself and learn them, and see where these friendships will go, if anywhere. But at the same time, I think one of the wildest things that I've experienced since I've been in New York is that I've never been surrounded by so many people and been so lonely at the exact same time. There are hundreds of thousands of people in this one city. And yet there's so many times where you're like, I just feel alone. I don't feel like I have anyone. I don't feel like, I found a tribe or a community or that friend that when things are really hard for you, that you can run to, you can go to, and call. Granted, I know that I've only been here 2 months, just shy of 2 months, and so I get it. That stuff takes time. But when you're so used to having it, I have an amazing support system in Cincinnati, as well as phenomenal friends who are all over this country. But this is the part of adulting that no one talks to you about, that no one tells you about. I was associated in some way to Miami University, love and honor, for the past 10 years. And when you are attached to a college campus, especially one like Miami, for that long, you get used to your friends working in buildings, one building over from you, or just a walk across campus, being able to align your schedules and just meet for lunch across campus, going uptown and grabbing a margarita after work, and just having access to your community like that. And that was something that I did not feel prepared for when I moved here. So there are days where I'm really strong and really good, and I'm going, and I'm exploring the city by myself, and I'll meet up with a friend in the city or something. And then there are days where I don't feel like I can do anything. Where it's hard to get out of bed, where it's hard to want to take a shower, when it's hard to want to clean up, when it's hard to want to cook food and actually eat something of substance and not eat a Pop-Tart for dinner, or popcorn for dinner. kind of done both of those since I've been here, that it just gets difficult to like function. For those of you who don't know, last year, 2018, yes, early 2018, I was diagnosed with clinical depression, and I was put on medication for it, which has been phenomenal. So I am a huge advocate and supporter of mental health medication. If you need it, get it, take it, use it. It could literally change the quality of your life. So I was seeing my therapist for a while, and we decided that it would be a great idea for me to start taking medication, kind of help chemically rebalance some stuff, and then hopefully in the long run it not be something that I need, but could help me get back on the right track now. And so been doing that for about 2 years, and it's good. It's good. There are some days where I feel like, my body's gotten used to it, and it's a little harder of a push to get through, especially during that time of the month where everything is going haywire. And then other days I'm fine and it's great. But it's a journey and it's a process, and that is something that I am learning to not despise the process. So anywho, I wanted to bring up mental health because I wanted to talk about something that is extremely important to me, and that is suicide prevention. So for those of you who don't know, the month of September is Suicide Prevention Month. And this past week is Suicide Prevention Week. And it is just the time where the nation and the National Mental Health Association and the Suicide Prevention Hotline really just put an emphasis and a focus on making people aware of the impact of suicide on our communities. So I don't think people realize how big of a deal it is, and suicide is such a silent killer. People who commit suicide have likely been thinking about it for a very long time, and they didn't want to be a burden or didn't know how to share it with their loved ones, and ultimately felt like the world would be better without them. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. It's absolutely not true. The vibrations literally of this earth, of the energy in this world, shifts if you are not here. You are here for a purpose. You are here because God put you here. You are here because you're called to be here, that there is something that you are supposed to accomplish here on this earth. And until you do so, you are not supposed to leave. But I think so many of us who are dealing with mental health, who are dealing with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive disorder, and so many different other things, our brains tell us that what we know to be true isn't actually the truth. And so, little bit of my story. When I was just shy of turning 16, I attempted suicide. And I didn't have the language to say that I was depressed. I didn't know what that meant. And by definition, I knew what depression was. But I didn't know how to articulate that that was something that I was going through, because I wasn't always sad. I wasn't moping around. I wasn't, like wanting to hide from everyone and everything. I was actually quite literally the opposite. I had a very robust personality. I was a very happy person. I was a very loud child. I was told that I brought joy to so many other people, but something on the inside of me wasn't bringing that joy to myself. I wasn't feeling like I had a purpose. I wasn't feeling like I was loved. And even though I was told it constantly by my parents, my friends, my family, I still didn't feel it, and it didn't penetrate. And so because it didn't penetrate, it was almost as if it wasn't there. It was almost as if they weren't saying it. It was almost as if I wasn't hearing what I was hearing. And that's really, really difficult to undo. To know something intellectually and to know something in your heart are just not the same. And that was where I was. And so at that point, I had been self-harming for maybe 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, that I mostly successfully hid from my parents, from my friends. I had a handful of people, a very small handful of people who knew about it, but didn't really know what to do. And right before I turned 16, like a few days, I believe, before I turned, maybe a week, 16, I attempted suicide. And what was crazy was I was just like, cool, I'm going to take all these pills, I'm going to lay down, I'm going to go to bed, and I'm just not going to get up. No suicide note, no, I'm sorry, mom and dad, no, I don't want to be here, none of that. I just felt like this was the best decision, the world was better off without me, and I would just go in peace and hope that my friends and family could get over it, get over me not being here, and just kind of move on with their lives. Then I woke up the next day, a little sick, but other than that, completely fine. And parents didn't know. No one knew. I shook it off. I think I went to snow. It's by my birthday, so I didn't go to school. Maybe I went to camp or something. I don't know. I went somewhere probably the next day as if nothing had ever happened. And it wasn't until my pastor, we were in service, and he was calling people to the altar that he felt as though were struggling with the idea of ending their lives. And several people went, and he wouldn't let go. And eventually I moved, and I say all the time, I felt like I had an out-of-body experience, that I had this moment where I was like, no, I'm not going. And all of a sudden my legs were moving, and I was watching the back of my body move towards the altar. And he was crying, and everyone was crying, and it was just one of those things where I was like, maybe more people would miss me than I realized. And I didn't know. I think that was the first time that what I knew intellectually matched what I knew internally and spiritually, and within my heart. And then I had a moment of being like, I guess I really am supposed to be here. Maybe God's not done with me. And that was tough. I wish I had gone to therapy after, and I didn't. I kind of just moved on. I went to spend my sweet 16 in Disney World with my best friend and her family, and we never talked about it. We never did anything about it. I never saw anyone. I just kind of moved on. So it wasn't until I got to college that I started seeing a therapist and was able to work through that. So again, huge advocate for therapy, huge advocate for mental health medication as needed. But I share that story because, one, I overcame it. One, I am here. I am happy to be here. And it's not that I didn't have those thoughts again later in life. It's not that I didn't consider doing it again. It's not that I wasn't pissed that I was unsuccessful the first time that I attempted or that I tried it. But in hindsight, I am realizing the relationships that I have with people wouldn't exist if I had succeeded. I'm realizing that the love that I feel from many of my friends and family wouldn't exist if I had succeeded. But the greatest thing of all, and I think what truly saved my life, are the arts. really the arts. I am a dancer to my core, singer, actor, writer, director, producer, whatever I want to be when I want to be it, photographer. Depends on the day, depends on what hat I choose to put on. But being able to have experienced and gone through what I've gone through, I feel like has given me the ability to tap into my artistry in a way that I don't think I would have been able to do otherwise. I'm not saying that you have to have this huge traumatic story to be an artist, but I am saying that out of your pain births some of the most beautiful art ever. Absolutely ever. And I mean, think about it. We all love depressed Mary J. Blige and depressed Adele. It is the most morbid thing to think about, but Adele just got a divorce, and sis is talking about releasing an album before the end of this year, and we are like hyped by it because we know that when Adele is not in a good place, her music slaps. It sucks. It's a terrible way to think about it. But, like, let's be honest with ourselves. Everybody's been on social media like, oh, she just got a divorce too. Bet. This is going to be the best album ever. Mary J. Blige was going through hell in the 90s, early 2000s. Then she drops that album that has Just Fine on it. And it's like her happy album. She's in a great place. And all of a sudden, all of her fans are forsaking her. No one wants to mess with Happy Mary J. Like, nobody loves Happy Mary J. And it's like, that's because we have learned that out of that pain comes just there's a genuineness, there's a rawness, there's a transparency in that pain that comes out of us and into our artistry that has the ability to impact other people because it's real and because it's raw, and it's because it's what we desire in everyday human interaction that we just don't get. So yeah, I learned to love my art in that way. I learned to be transparent in my art. And as a writer, I think one of the most amazing things is I can put myself in it without fully emerging myself. No one has to know that I'm writing my story. No one has to know that I am writing my own pain. That is something that is therapeutic for me. That is something that is healing for me, but not necessarily, no one else needs to know that it is something that is personal to me. And I think that's what the beauty of it is. But I have danced myself out of some of the most darkest places ever. I have literally gone into studios, I've gone into sanctuaries, and I have just danced until whatever I was dealing with broke off of me. And I learned to use dance. I realized that it was the place where I felt the safest. It's also the place that I feel closest to God. It doesn't even matter if I'm dancing, if I'm worship dancing or I'm dancing secularly. When I dance, it is the place where I feel like I am using my entire body to glorify God. And that through this gift he has given me. And so I heal when I dance. When I write, I used to write a lot of poetry as a kid, a lot of spoken word, before spoken word became cool. And I didn't realize it until much later in life, but I was healing myself through that spoken word. And now I just wrote, produced, and performed my first solo show back in April, yay me, to complete my thesis. And I have always been very open about the fact that I used to self-harm, the fact that I attempted suicide, all of those things, but I never in detail talked about it. I never wrote about it. I never really shared the things I think people want to hear and need to hear so that they know that they're not alone. And so I wrote it in a play. And then I had to perform it. And I didn't realize how difficult that was going to be, despite the fact that I was like, I'm in a much better place now, a much, much better place now. And so I had to work through those feelings, and I had to relive those feelings, and I had to experience that all over again, in order to properly heal, but then offer up healing to my audience. So the art saved my life. I now have a way to channel those feelings. I sing a lot more now than I ever did. And there's something about being in pain emotionally and releasing it through song, that I have found extremely therapeutic. And so I'm so for the arts for kids. I recently was tagged in an article of these young urban youth who were using musical theater to heal their trauma. And I think that it's important that we pay attention to that. We pay attention to how these kids are attaching to the arts and being drawn into the arts, and how the arts can be used to heal us. It's something I'm very passionate about. It was the start of my thesis, or of my research through my thesis, was this idea that we can heal ourselves through the performing arts, and also offer an invitation for our audience to seek the healing that they need, which I did through my play Out of the Box. It's like a trial, but the more I think about it and the more I recognize the experiences that I have had through the arts and how I was healed through the arts, I think I might be getting a PhD. And if I do choose to pursue that route, I think that digging further into this concept of healing through performative works, this liberatory practice that comes when we process our trauma, we process our experiences, we process everything that we have gone through in an artistic manner, what that does for our spirits and our souls, our chakras, the energy that we release into the world, and how we can contribute to being better humans to society. So I hope you guys enjoyed what I've talked about. I know it was a little heavy, but it's something that was heavy on my heart to share. So I pray that it impacts someone, even if it's just one person. If you were encouraged by the things that I've shared, comment below, like below, share with your friends. Let's get my subscribers up. I'm also going to put some statistics about suicide in the comment section below, just so that we can be more informed and more aware of what other people are going through, especially our youth, especially our kids, what they are dealing with. And if you or someone you know is dealing with any type of suicide ideations, or you are just feeling lonely or concerned, you need someone to talk to, I highly encourage you to reach out. If you don't feel like you have anyone to reach out, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, it's a great number to call. It's 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255, and I'll put it somewhere along the bottom here. I hope that you're encouraged, and I hope that you know that you are loved, that God loves you, I love you, your family and friends love you, even if they act like shitheads and you don't feel like they love you, they do. And the world would not be a better place if you were not here. So I hope you guys have a blessed day, and I'll see you when I see ya. Bye!